15 centimeters. That's how deep the dent was in the frozen ground after a man leaped from the first deck of the Eiffel Tower in pursuit of his vision. As we delve deeper into this story, the events leading to this tragic leap will become clear. An ambition chased at a devastating cost. Born on October 16, 1878, Franz Reichelt was an unmarried tailor from Austria. Seeking better opportunities, he moved to France, where he settled in Paris and opened a dressmaking business, which eventually became successful. Reichelt grew up at a time when the dream of human flight was beginning to take shape. He closely followed the development of early airplanes, captivated by their potential. As he read about the frequent plane crashes and the resulting deaths of pilots trying to escape aircrafts, he felt compelled to make a difference. His determination grew stronger in 1911 when the Aero Club de France launched a competition, offering a prize of 10,000 francs for a parachute design capable of saving pilots' lives. With no formal background in science or engineering, Reichelt became fixated on developing a wearable parachute suit. Like traditional parachutes, his design aimed to increase the surface area of a falling person in an attempt to slow their descent and survive a fall if they had to exit an aircraft. However, instead of an overhead canopy, Reichelt's parachute would be integrated directly into the flight suit itself. His initial design showed some promise, though the extent of his testing remains unclear. Reports vary, but some accounts suggest that dummies dressed in Reichelt's suit landed safely after being dropped from the 5th floor of his apartment. However, when he presented his 70-kilogram jumpsuit to the Aero Club de France, it was categorically rejected by engineers. The competition rules specified that the suit must weigh no more than 25 kilograms. Not only was Reichelt's suit far too heavy, but the canopy also had less than half the surface area required to slow a person's fall adequately. One engineer told him, "The surface of your device is too weak, you will break your neck." Determined to prove his parachute suit could work, Reichelt pressed on with refining and testing his design. However, he struggled to replicate his early successes with any of his later prototypes. Dummies thrown from the roof of his dress shop repeatedly crashed into the courtyard in a manner that would have been fatal for a real person. In 1911, he even began testing the suits himself. One such jump from a window more than 8 meters above the ground resulted in a broken leg. Despite these setbacks, he remained confident in his suit's potential, believing the issue was simply that the drop distance was too short for the flaps to deploy fully. He reflected, "The suit has not had time to make contact with the air. If I had 50 or 100 meters instead of 25, the results would be wonderful. I will prove it one day." Reichelt applied to various organizations in hopes of securing funding, but his efforts were unsuccessful. Undeterred, he continued his studies and conducted numerous test jumps from low launch points, typically around 10 meters in height. Believing higher launch points were necessary for the parachute to deploy properly, he set his sights on the first deck of the Eiffel Tower, which stood 57 meters above the ground, about 5 times higher than his previous test heights. He focused on reducing the weight of his suit while increasing the surface area of the canopy. Once he developed a design he was confident in, he repeatedly petitioned the Parisian Prefecture of Police for permission to test it from the Eiffel Tower. In 1912, permission was granted to conduct his test from the first deck of the tower. He then announced to the press that he would stage a highly publicized demonstration of his suit on February 4, 1912. Even back then, authorities were not eager to allow someone to jump from a landmark in an experimental parachute. Reichelt, however, obtained permission to carry out his demonstration on the condition that it would be a mannequin wearing the suit, not him. But this was never his true plan. On the day of the demonstration, he made it clear that he would personally leap from the iconic tower. After some initial confusion and resistance from the police, he was eventually allowed to ascend to the platform. Once there, after briefly showcasing his suit, Reichelt made his way to the first stage of the tower, firmly believing that the weight of his body and the increased height would enable the suit to work as intended. In the minutes before his jump, His friends and attendants attempted to convince him to call off the stunt due to the wind and cold. To their concern, Reichelt responded, "You are going to see how my 72 kilograms and my parachute will give your arguments the most decisive of denials." He also quickly rejected suggestions from journalists to use a safety rope or take other precautions. He declared, "I want to try the experiment myself and without trickery, as I intend to prove the worth of my invention." As seen in a grainy period recording of the event, Reichelt climbed onto a stool placed on a table to raise himself over the guardrail and prepared to jump. Once at the edge, with the suit partially deployed, he hesitated for about 40 seconds, as if he sensed the tragic fate that awaited him. Then, with a final resolve, he leapt into the void. Reichelt's suit failed to deploy properly, becoming tangled around him. He fell straight down and tragically died upon impact with the ground. A collective cry of horror erupted from both the crowd below and from his friends on the platform. A prominent newspaper reported, 2 seconds later, in a pitiful wreck, he lay on the icy grass. He fell almost standing, blood trickled from his mouth, nose, and ears, his right arm and leg were crushed, his skull and back were broken. Death was instant. As the police rushed to Reichelt's side, the 33-year-old tailor had already succumbed to his injuries. His fall had left a 15-centimeter hole in the ground. Some reports suggest that the official cause of his death was a massive heart attack, occurring before he even hit the ground. This theory seems plausible when considering the extreme speed at which he was falling and the realization that his prized invention had failed. Others placed blame on the Parisian police for allowing Reichelt to jump at all. However, the police insisted that they had only granted him permission to test his parachute from the Eiffel Tower because they believed he would be using dummies. They were just as shocked as the rest of the crowd when he chose to make the leap himself. Reichelt's tragic death may have been in vain, as a similar invention had already been developed prior to his parachute suit. In 1911, Russian inventor Gleb Kotelnikov designed and patented a knapsack-style parachute aimed at preventing the unnecessary deaths of airplane pilots. This innovative design, which featured an automatic deployment mechanism to ensure safety even if the pilot was unconscious, became a foundational advancement in aviation safety. In contrast, after Reichelt's fatal jump from the Eiffel Tower in 1912, his parachute suit design was largely forgotten, and no further advancements in parachute technology were made based on his design. However, his story endured in popular culture, finding a place in books that focus on strange or unusual true stories, often highlighting bizarre accidents, embarrassing mistakes, and notable failures. In addition to this unusual kind of fame, a French newspaper humorously noted that as a mad genius, Reichelt deserved only half that title. Franz Reichelt's tragic leap highlights the dangers of pursuing ambitious dreams without the necessary expertise. When a tailor's hopes of flight clash with the laws of physics, the result is a fall, not a takeoff. His story serves as a cautionary tale about the importance of thoroughly testing ideas and ensuring safety before taking any life-risking steps.